I recently returned to Mount Vernon, George Washington's home, a place he made his castle and farm. From what was once a sprawling 3,000-acre farm to a modest 11,000 square foot mansion, George had a magnificent property, on which he had tons of farms. Formal gardens inspired by European practices common at the time in the former colonies, granaries, a fruit orchard, pigs, horses, chickens, and much more. Given that George Washington had hundreds of slaves in his estate, this is a stark reminder of what hundreds of humans can accomplish at the cost of hundreds of humans. This is evidently an antithetical approach to growing food and having autonomy, harvested and cooked by people who had less autonomy than the fruit they harvested. As we walk through the orchard, we can see a huge amount of pears, plums, apples, peaches, and more, even fruit bushes such as blackberries and raspberries, and gooseberries. These were common fruits at the time, eventually stretching into Utah as the settlers brought trusted trees. Also common throughout the property were these spots where more calorie-heavy crops were grown or rotated or given more non-human focuses, like the granary where the mules would grind up the plants and allow the seeds to fall down. Now, you'll also see signs that talk about how innovative George Washington was, and it's interesting to me that these things, like these seed beds, which were grown for the purpose of preserving and having seeds for the next year, were so uncommon at the time. However, even though George Washington, by contemporary standards, was innovative and rotated his crops, fixed nitrogen into the soil, and used manure compost from his stables, he still did not maximize the utility of his orchard and berry patch. You can see the lack of polyculture and guilds, something that would have benefited his trees, but apparently didn't make a difference in his vast Virginia acreage. Ultimately, Mount Vernon is a beautiful historical site, and it even functions as a time capsule of sorts, where this more recent granary was built to help process seeds, but it's beautiful and it fits in. In my opinion, this is why living history is so important, because it allows us to get a glimpse of what happened in the life before, just like how we've lost most of our chestnut trees, but that's a topic for another time. Anyway, this pollinator garden was gorgeous. We were there in mid-July, and it was absolutely popping off. The butterflies were ubiquitous. This is how you do a polyculture native garden, and it was special. You can see many familiar plants such as black-eyed Susan and coneflower, two very popular plants, ones I work with frequently. Let me know if you'd like to see more content like this. I love investigating historical permaculture cases and sharing our collective history. I have plans for Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home, places in Utah where the Mormons settled with fruit trees, and many more across the United States and other countries. In the meantime, this has been Dane of Eden and Dane, a food-focused landscape design company. Check out the Instagram or website for more information.